Well, here we are again to chat about life. I'm amazed when I visit with some people about the quality of their relationships, the people that they hang out with, and the insights that they gain from them. One of the things that fascinates me most is after being in an environment where the conversation is somewhat combative, where some people might say, well, I don't even listen to him anymore. I think to myself, well, if you don't listen to them, if you don't get advice from them, if you don't feel like you're giving any advice to them, if you're not adding value to their life or adding value to yours, then why do you still hang out with them? I mean, what's the point? Is this a friendship? Is this an acquaintance? Is this, what do you call that? Two people who hang out together, or 5 or 10 people who hang out together, and there's no benefit to anyone for having been there. That's fascinating to me. I don't understand it. I like to be around people that I can learn from, even if I don't agree with them. Yes, that's true. In fact, I learned how to play pool by losing a lot. I learned more playing pool losing the game than I did winning the game. And I'll tell you one of the things that I learned most about playing the game of pool. Yeah, it's a lot about strategy, and it's a lot about hand-eye coordination and being able to aim the right shot and being able to line up the next shot, and all of that goes into it. But I can tell you, over the years that I've played, it's less about the rules, it's less about the strategy, it's even less about ball control than most people think. The ability to win or lose comes down to attitude. It really does. I can't tell you how many times I've played after I became a better player in tournaments or leagues or competitions. In 2002, I played in the World Championship in Las Vegas. Fascinating adventure. I didn't have the ruthlessness to take a shot that it was perfectly legal. It was within the realm of the rules. It was what I would consider dirty pool, and in a pool hall would have got you beaten up. It would have been cracked. Somebody would have cracked a pool stick over your head for taking the kind of shot that would have needed to be taken to win. Now, had I taken that shot, the chances are 90% I would have won that round and advanced to the next level in the tournament. But I felt like it was a lack of integrity to take that shot. After I lost the match, it was that one shot, and even my opponent came to me and he's like, dude, I would have taken that shot. I mean, I know you would have lost ball in hand, but I had no chance. You would have won that game. You would have advanced to the next round. That was the Hill game. That one shot made the difference between finishing 756 out of 1,800 players versus in the 200s out of 1,800 players. One shot. It came down to one shot, one decision. And that one decision to me was a matter of integrity. It was a matter of attitude. Now I want you to play that strategy in your mind for a moment and think about the number of times in a relationship that you've had maybe a little bit of a heated conversation. And in that little bit of a heated conversation, you actually realized there was something you could say that would kind of be the win. Right? If you just said that one thing, there's no way they can reply. It's like, boom, mic drop, right? If you get that one, they're done. If you could just get them to hear it the way you hear it in your head, if you could just say it as clearly as you heard so-and-so say it, if you could just land that piece. Let me ask you this question. In that conversation, in that moment, would landing that mic drop phrase, that boom, this is the nuclear option, you got nothing left to say. If you pulled that off, what would be the price in your relationship? Would the relationship be over? Would they stop listening to you altogether? Would you lose all credibility for anything else that you might say? Would you lose the opportunity to lose in the future and learn? See, as I learned to play pool, one of the things that gave me more free lessons than anything else was the ability to lose with dignity. Because every time I learned to lose with more dignity, I was able to respect the person who beat me in a whole new level. And being able to respect them, even though I didn't like losing, taught me lessons about how to lose with dignity. It also taught me that sometimes the greater win isn't right now. There are guys that I've played pool with that I've lost to, who would never make it to Las Vegas. They wouldn't have the sustainability to win the number of games necessary at a local level in the league to qualify to go to Vegas. They wouldn't have the tenacity or the mood or the temperament to put up with all the nonsense that it takes to get there, or the collected behavior personality enough to play at that level. Well, how do I know that? Because I've seen them smash pool cues over their heads. I've seen people that were on their way to Vegas the same year who lost in tournaments to me. One particular guy was screaming and yelling and cussing and took his pool cue apart halfway through the game. He was trying to intimidate me. He was trying to tell me, you know, just go ahead. I mean, you got this shot anyway. He was really mad at himself for the shot that he didn't make. But the attitude that he expressed when he didn't make the shot, the frustration, the anger, he was standing in my line of sight, taking his pool cue apart, hoping that he would psychologically boost my confidence and cause me to miss the shot. There's a rule in tournament play, in BCA Rules, that if your opponent takes their stick apart before the last ball is dropped, whether 8-ball or 9-ball or straight pool, doesn't matter. If the opponent takes the stick apart at the table before the last ball is dropped, it is a declaration of forfeiture. If he so much as takes his stick apart after the break before the first ball is sunk, it's a forfeiture. So when he stood in my line of sight and started taking his stick apart as if to say to me, you got this, go ahead. Yeah, right, whatever. I stood up from the table, laid my stick down, I raised my hand, the judge came over. I said, there are 3 balls left on the table, but my opponent just took his stick apart. And my opponent went ballistic. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, you forfeited the game. He said, no, you haven't won this game yet. You need to shoot those 3 balls. I said, I don't have to shoot them because you took your stick apart. You told me through your attitude that you don't care if you win or lose. And so you've chosen to lose. And I don't even have to continue to win for you to lose because you chose to lose. And it was all about attitude. And he was on the docket to go to Vegas that year. I don't know if he actually made it. I never saw him in competition. But I can tell you that I've been in many conversations that a lot of people would say weren't conversations, they were arguments. And early on, winning the argument for me was everything. I had to prove my point. I had to make sure that if I talked louder, if I talked faster, that one way or another you heard everything I had to say. And I used to believe that winning every argument was absolutely essential. So there's some guys that I see at the coffee shop on a regular basis, and I would say probably less than 50% of what we talk about do I agree with them on. But I learn a lot. Because I hear them say things in their own audacity, in their own confidence, in their own, it's almost arrogance, but not quite. They're thoroughly convinced of their ideas and their notions, although they would be hard-pressed to, quote-unquote, prove them. There's no real substantial history other than passed down ideas that have been disproven, but their opinion is what really drives it. Their opinion, their feelings, their own emotions, their own attitude, that's what really drives their thoughts. And so it's ironic as you go through that process in that deep conversation with them, hearing some of the ideas that they come up with. And there are some times that you know, for an example, yesterday I heard somebody quote the phrase, "The meek shall inherit the earth." I said to myself, well, that sounded really completely out of context of the conversation that we're having. So I just asked him, hang on, what does meek mean? What is that word meek? What is that? Who's that describing? And so he went off on a tangent of, it's the downtrodden, it's those who've been abused, it's those who've been raped, those who've been in slavery. It just went, all a left field of this comment. And when he finished his string, he said, that's who's going to inherit the earth. I said, that's not what that says. He said, what do you mean? I said, that's not what meek means. If the meek will inherit the earth, that's not the meek. And I'm not saying they don't deserve to inherit something. I'm just saying if it's the meek who inherit the earth, that's not the meek. So they're going to share their possession? At that time, his coffee needed a refill, and he got up and left to come back later and jump back into the same discussion as if what I said had meant absolutely nothing. Now, in days gone by, I would have pounded on that point and stayed on that point until I got him to admit that the meek and the list of people that he was talking about were not the same. And winning that argument may have destroyed the chance of a long-term friendship, which means my ability to influence him 2 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 days down the road would be non-existent. So my challenge to you as a leader is to ask this honest question. Would you rather be right, or would you rather be alone? And by alone, I don't mean that you've destroyed every relationship and no one wants to talk to you, although I know people like that. They're so right that nobody hears what they have to say. But I do mean, John Maxwell said it this way. He said, if you're leading from the top of the mountain and there's no one around you, you're not leading, you're taking a walk. If you've gotten to the top and it's lonely at the top, you're not doing it right. If your relationships have been so beaten down by your insistence on never being wrong, you're not doing it right. And you may win the argument, but you will lose the war. You may win the discussion of the day, if you will, but you will entirely lose your influence. And I'm going to tell you honestly, the hardest place to apply that logic is in parenting. Between siblings, you will see that argument that I have to be right. I have to be right. I will be right if I have to lie about being wrong in order to be right. That's how convinced most siblings are that they are right and that they have to be right. Sometimes that happens in the parent-child relationship, where the child actually knows something the parents don't know, usually around technology. But the parents are not going to be educated, informed, or trained by their children. Ain't going to happen. So that means that the parent must be right and the child must be wrong. And if that's the case, then usually what happens is the kids eventually just kind of get that, yeah, dad's kind of arrogant. Dad kind of knows it all. You can't teach dad nothing. And at some point, you just get a dismissive pushback. And that's not just about the moment of the argument or even the overall concept. It's about you. Are you the kind of leader who's more determined to be right than to be a person of influence? Is it more important to you to win today's argument, today's conversation, to make your point, to stamp your flag in the ground, to boom, drop the mic, than it is to have long-term, lasting, respected, revered influence in someone's life? If it is, you're not doing it right. There are times that it's more beneficial for you to lose the argument in the hopes that you may one day win the war. There are those times when the facts are non-negotiable. And in some of those times, I will choose to declare what I know to be true without regard for who it offends. And then there are times that I ask myself, what's the bigger win? Do I walk away today in silence? Or do I sit silently and listen to their opinions until I can formulate a better, more peaceful rebuttal? Or do I declare victory, throw out that opinion or that fact, and risk the chance that I'll never have a chance to influence them again? How do you handle that? What do you do in that moment where you could, boom, Or you could nod in silence, let it go, and realize there'll be another chance to have this conversation. And next time, you'll be better prepared. I like my odds with next time I'll be better prepared. I'm J Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. For those of you who are still hanging out, remember we are still live on Facebook, even though I don't know when they decide to make them live and when they decide to hide them. So if it's live today, awesome. Please leave a comment, a like, and a share. It's always live on YouTube because YouTube seems to be pretty loyal, and today it's live on Periscope as well. Even though I have some message on my screen that I can't read without my glasses, I can see that people are commenting and chiming in on Periscope. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And if you don't get these live on Facebook, live on YouTube, or live on Periscope, you can always go to the YouTube page, and down in the details, there's actually a link to subscribe on iTunes podcast. It takes about 24 hours for the next one to come up, but there's more than 300 of them already, more than 300 of these daily lessons that I've been teaching every Monday through Friday, 6:20 a.m. since last May. So there's plenty of content. Some of them are series that are soon to be coming out in the form of a book. The Attitude Hack is one of those. Some of them are series that have not yet been converted to a book, but they will be soon, like the Invisible to Invincible series, which I think is going to be pretty powerful. It's going to be a good book and a great teaching series for teens. But you can have all of them for free for now. There will be a date. I haven't picked it yet, but there will be a date when what you get on Periscope, YouTube, and Facebook Live will be a miniature version of the teaching that I'm actually preparing, and it will only be paid access that will get the rest of it. So I hope it's of value to you enough that maybe one day $1 or $2 would be worth spending to get it. If not, then we'll just limit the number of people that are seeing it. I'm okay with that. There will still be a message for everybody somewhere. But like, subscribe, share on any one of those mediums that suits you best. Get it on iTunes. And of course, the last option is if you go to Excellent Life Leadership, there's a little form on the right side where you can actually put your name and email address in there. And once a week, I'll send an email that has all of the videos from the week. They're just links. I don't fill up your inbox with memory drivers, so you're not filling up your account. It's just links, but you can watch all of the videos from the week all in one place. Of course, you can archive those and have all of them. And that's also where we make announcements like the marriage conference we have coming up in October. Any appearances, I'll be speaking at the Christian Media Association's National Conference, which is coming up in 2 weeks. I'll be speaking at that event as well as the marriage conference in October. I'll also be at the Gathering of Eagles in Branson at the end of October, and in DC, but I believe that one's closed. That's October 9th through the 12th for the Parliament of the Congo, who will be coming to DC. So all of those announcements will be in the email as well if you sign up for those. You'll know where they're at and when the books are coming out and how you can get your hands on them. If you're not a subscriber to the email, you'll have to be watching live. Otherwise, you probably won't find it. Thanks for letting me be a part of your day. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you taking time to be a part of mine. Stay blessed.